Well, thanks
Excellent.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. And before I get into your work and what has made you who you are, we've gone through quite an event the last 3 years with COVID. It's worked on all of us in its own way. So I'm curious how you survived it and how it's changed the way that you live your life and conduct business now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that certainly was an unprecedented event in human history, right? And it definitely impacted everyone. I think, even with situations that we might consider to be unfortunate, which COVID certainly was, if you have gratitude and you have a strong gratitude practice, I think you can always find the opportunity and the upside and everything. And so that's really what I challenged myself to do during COVID, was to really find the opportunity there. And so for me, the opportunity was to go within. And so I'm a spiritual coach and healer. And so on my path, which is the path of the ancient mystery schools, we say the spiritual path is to know thyself. That is the path. And so I took the opportunity that COVID gave me to get to know myself a lot better. And so one of the things I did was I did a 3 month meditation journey where I actually went from between, I started at 2 hours a day of meditation. And then by the end, I was up to 8 to 10 hours a day of meditation by the end of the 3 months. And I also stopped using social media for that whole time, stopped watching TV, didn't read, didn't listen to music. It was a very intense thing that I wouldn't recommend, for anyone to just try it on their own. I was definitely supervised by one of the master teachers in my school, but I am so grateful that I got that opportunity to do that and to do it in a time when it was actually perfect because there were no distractions anyway. And so I did that. I spent a lot of time in nature. And yeah, I mean, there were certainly some struggles along the way, but like I said, I'm just really grateful that I have tools, and I have a gratitude practice. I have spiritual tools that allowed me to really get through that time and transmute things that were negative into a positive.
And I think probably I hear so many silver linings about this time period. I think there's a part of it where, we realize that we're not in control, Mother Nature is, and it's probably not all that bad that the American mindset finally slows down for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it forced a lot of people to really evaluate their lifestyle and whether it was actually working for them.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing that was very positive is that there was so many levels of reevaluation that went into it. And, speaking of levels and layers, there's a lot that goes into what you do. So I want to get to a better sense of exactly what you do. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day at a grade school. Okay. And one of
I
the
love
kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What do you
it.
say?
The amazing thing about children, and at third grade, this is certainly true, they know themselves. They're not afraid to be themselves. They think they can accomplish anything. And it's only when adults step in and tell them, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't be that, that they start to doubt themselves. And so, what I would say to those third graders is that along the way of living life, adults often lose the courage or the vision to know who they really are, to be living their full purpose, be going after the things that they really want. And so I help adults remember. I help them remember and reignite that spark inside of them so that they can live a fuller life and they can do what they're truly meant to do and not just settle. There's so many people living a mediocre life. And I think mediocrity is actually worse than when you're in a struggle, because when you're in a struggle, you're determined to do something to get out of it and make your situation better. But when you're in this kind of mediocrity of, I'm just going to settle for a job, or I'm just going to settle for a relationship, I'm just going to settle for where I live, it's very easy to just stay stuck. And so I help adults get unstuck.
So you're obviously in a capacity in your life where you give a lot, and that I mean, there's a lot of people that just go and do work and do their job, get a paycheck. but you're actually in a higher capacity of what you're doing by giving. So let's go back to your childhood. Tell me where you were born and raised and what some of these seeds were that got planted in you.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Spring Hill, Florida, which is a suburb north of Tampa, and I lived there until I was in my early 20s. I think, some of the seeds that got planted in me, well, first of all, I had very strong influences in my maternal grandparents, who I spent a lot of time with until I was about 13, and then my grandmother passed away. Uh, but up until then, they instilled so many strong values in me, work ethic. My grandfather was a storyteller. And so that's really where I think I learned my love of story and communication. And in Florida, you have so much opportunity to be in nature, at least at that time anyway. It's a little more developed now. But I was outside a lot. I was connecting with nature all the time. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronomer. So I had a telescope. I was always looking for something bigger in the universe, but also always looking to how do I connect to this earth as well. And so, in this physical existence. And so I think that has been a through line that's carried me until adulthood. And it's very much a big part of what I do now.
So how do you get to a point where you feel enough that you're a healer? How did that happen? When did you know that you had something special and that you had something that could really help people out?
Yeah, well, it took for me to realize that I needed healing myself before I could realize that I was a healer. And so I think a lot of people end up in a place where I was about 7 or 8 years ago. I was looking at my life, feeling like, I don't know how I got here. Like, I know I'm not happy. Like, I know I made the choices that I thought were the right choices, and yet I'm so unfulfilled. And I was actually on the verge of a nervous breakdown. And so I really started looking for solutions. And, I looked in the traditional places and I got a little bit of support, I would say, got a little bit of progress from Western medicine and psychology and psychiatry. Um, but it just allowed me only to just survive and not really thrive. And so I was still looking for more. And that's when I found the spiritual path that I'm on now. And it was just, I just found someone and they told me what they did. And I just knew in my soul. It wasn't a logical thing. It was just in my soul. Something in my soul said, yes, do this. And so I started down the journey of receiving healing. And in that journey of healing myself, I got to know myself a lot better. I got to know more of what my purpose is and what was really going to drive me in terms of um, living a joyful life, living a life of meaning and purpose. And I was like, this was worked for me so dramatically that I think I'm supposed to share this with others. And I was right, because that's what I do now.
Right on. So in this journey for you, who's been kind of a role model for you or a hero?
I've been so fortunate to have so many role models throughout my life. I mean, I think, when I was an adolescent, I had great teachers who, I was quite in my shell when I was younger. I was a little bit afraid of expression, of showing who I really was. And I had my chorus teacher, and I think also some of my English teachers created a space for me to express in a way that I felt safe, singing or writing. And then, now I have the great fortune of being in an advanced spiritual school where I had so many mentors and teachers. I couldn't even name them all, but so many of them have just helped me in small ways to big ways to become more of who I truly am. So I feel pretty fortunate.
So let me ask you this. If you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, who would you like to meet and talk to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think someone I would want to meet in this criteria would be a lot based on the wisdom that they've gained. So the more lives that or the more that we live in this life, and the more experiences we have, the more usually, age we have. we develop wisdom because wisdom is from experience. So I would want to meet someone who I think is really wise. And so um, one person would be David Attenborough. You know, he's like in his 90s now, but he spent his life really exploring and uncovering what's special about this amazing planet that we live on and documenting that. And I would just want to hear more about his experiences and what he's seen and how he's seen things change over time. And, you know, he's really an advocate for us appreciating this planet, preserving this planet. I just think he would have so many amazing stories. I love stories. I love stories.
Yeah. So let's tap into your wisdom. Let's say you have a dream tonight and you can run into like an earlier version of yourself, say in your 20s, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom that you've gained in your life up to this point. What would you tell your young version?
Yeah. I would say, you know, don't live your life based on what other people tell you is right for you. Really follow your inner knowing and develop that inner knowing because that's going to be your North Star. That's going to be your true compass of where you need to go. And there's so many people who would tell you what you can't do or what you should do. And most of the time they're well meaning, but they don't actually know because we're all here with a unique purpose. And so, how can someone else tell you what your purpose is? They can't. It's something that an individual has to discover for themselves. And so, I would say be true to yourself, trust your inner knowing, and don't make choices based on what other people tell you. I mean, and sometimes people have good advice, but don't make those choices that's going to determine your life path based on other people's expectations.
So in this very busy life that you have of all these things that you do, what is it that is the ultimate motivator every day for you? What gets you through the day? What gets you to where you want to be?
What gets me through the day is when I really remember how far I have come through the work that I do now for clients. And I know that there are so many people out there who were where I was, who have the potential to heal and become more of themselves and truly live the life that they want and the life that they're meant to live. And the fact that I have the opportunity to play a part in that for other people, it's the most rewarding thing I could have possibly imagined doing with my life. And so that's really what gets me excited about living life every single day is the opportunity to help people and help them in a way that I think is so profound.
So as a guide, healer, teacher, and author, I'm curious in all of these different disciplines that you do, what's been one of the best fan letters, client responses you've ever gotten?
You know, one of the best stories. So may I mention my book a little bit because I
Oh,
have
please.
a bunch
Yeah,
of
yeah.
testimonials. Yeah. So in my book, which is called Ancient Healings, Modern Miracles, I have 24 stories, true life stories of how the work that I do with the Modern Mystery School and the lineage of King Solomon has changed people's lives. And so they have overcome things from a range of addiction issues, mental health issues, relationship issues, you know, being able to live the career that they really want, finding that perfect job, that perfect mate, you know, all of these things are possible through this work. But one story I think I'll share, I don't think she'll mind. I don't tell in the book that it's my mom, but I guess here I'll just say it's my mom. I don't think she's gonna mind. So I did a session for my mom called the Life Activation. And at the time when I did the session for her, she was really questioning what she should be doing with her life because she was kind of semi-retired. She had just moved to a new state and she just wasn't really sure what she wanted to do. And so I did the life activation, which helps people get on track with and really have that sense of what their true purpose is and where they should be going and how they should be living in more alignment with their, you know, their authenticity. So after that session, she realized, well, gosh, I don't really need to work. I just kind of thought I should because that's what I've always done. But I see now that I've moved closer to my children and my grandchildren, they need me. And so she actually decided to spend the majority of her time instead of getting a job, being that matriarch for the family. And so the way that my whole family has been impacted by that decision from my mom of really to just step into that role and put her focus there on supporting the family and knowing that it's okay for her to not have a job outside because she's served her time, she's retired. And the way it's impacted my family has been amazing. It's impacted all of the children in the family. It's impacted me and my sisters in such a positive way. So even one person doing the work to heal themselves and to get in touch with who they really are and what their purpose is and living that can impact a whole community, a whole family.
So let's go into your life. When you look back on everything that you've done up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Wow. I think I'm the proudest that I didn't give up because I was at a moment, many moments in my life actually, some in adolescence, but some much more recently, within the last 6 or 7 years or 8 years of my life, I was really contemplating, did I even want to be alive? And so I'm really proud that I didn't give up and that I actually pushed through those really difficult times and found something that really worked for me. And now that I get to share it with others, I can't think of anything I could be more proud of than that.
So the one thing that always motivates us, and we all probably tapped into it more over the pandemic, was art, whether it's film or books or visual arts, music. What has it been for you in your life? What's been the art or the book or what's been the thing that's really been either something you revisit or really made an effect on you?
Mm, there's so many I could say, but I think my current favorite book is The Alchemist.
Yeah.
And that book, I feel like you could read it over and over and over again. And each time you get something new because that book meets you wherever you are. And so as we grow, that book is magical in a way that I haven't experienced with many books before, that it meets you wherever you are. And then as you grow, it's almost like the book is growing with you. It's unfolding new meaning for whatever you need at that time in your life. So that's a book that I I love to read and reread.
So as an author, tell me about your book and let's make this fun a little bit here. So if you had to make kind of a couple of tweets to convince somebody to get it or explain your book, how would you do that?
Please, okay. Um, Stop suffering, live the life you really want, learn how. That would be one way. And then I would say there's ancient solutions to modern problems. That's actually one of the taglines that I use to promote my book because everything that I talk about in the book comes from the ancient lineage of King Solomon. And so, he was called King Solomon the Wise for a reason. He spent his whole life, many people don't know, it's not common knowledge, but he spent um, decades of his life dedicating to how he can help people heal. He was a master healer and a master teacher, spiritual teacher. And so he was the one who pulled together these methods that I use with clients that worked so profoundly on me that changed my whole life. And so the book is the recounting of real people whose lives have profoundly changed by receiving these healings, these teachings, these initiations within this lineage that come from the King Solomon originally, which are now taught and passed down by the modern mystery school.
So let's get into the essence exactly of who you are. Everyone has a perception of you. We have all these pockets of people in our lives, family, friends, readers, clients, colleagues, but you ultimately live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, I think that I am a divine being here in a physical body, just like everyone else is. I just might be slightly more aware of it than other people. I think that I'm connected with everyone and everything. And again, that's the reality for everyone. I just might be slightly more aware of it than others might be if they haven't really tuned into that aspect of themselves. And who else am I? Let's see. I am a healer, I'm an author, I'm a teacher, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm a sister. daughter, so many things. And so the amazing thing about being human, one of the amazing things, is that we can be so multidimensional. And I'm also a singer. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I think I did when I was in chorus. So I have I have a creative side too. I write poetry. I mean, I just think being human is the greatest gift, and it's really unfortunate when we lose touch, we lose sight of that gratitude of what it is, a gift of this life. I know how easy it is to lose sight of it because I lost sight of it. And so I think part of why I'm here and who I am is just to help remind people of that beauty and that gift that we are given.
Wonderful. It's very necessary. If anyone out there wants to get your book, learn more about you, hire you, reach out, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, all of that they can find through my website, which is www.lightwithinheal.com.
All right, excellent. Dawn, thank you for opening up. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Joe, for the opportunity, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you. Take care.